Hey everyone, Nick Juskewycz here with Daily Fantasy Winners. This is another episode of T2 Green, and this is a preview of the RBC Heritage. This is a golf tournament that is played in Harbortown Golf Links in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Jumping right into the details of the golf course, we are looking at a par 71 of 7,101 yards. This is definitely one of the more shorter courses on the entire PGA Tour, and is one more of the unique courses actually also on the PGA Tour as well. It is a golf course that is located on the Atlantic Ocean, but having said that, the first 16 holes are actually pretty much heavily wooded, heavily tree-lined, and it is a very tight golf course. It's only the 17th hole, which is a par 3 coming out of the woods, more toward the ocean, and the 18th hole that goes along the ocean that really are the only two holes that are a little bit more on the open. So in any case, getting into why this golf course is particularly unique, as I scroll through here on some of these golf holes, you can just kind of see here in a general sense here, this is a very tight course. A lot of bunkers greenside, definitely some water, particularly on the par 3s. But certainly, as you can see, most of these golf holes will be heavily wooded on both sides. Not only that, there are some trees that actually hang over parts of these greens, particularly here on hole 9. That's one more of the shorter holes, at 332 yards. This is just very unique because there's trees going to be placed basically in the fairway or just off the fairway that are protecting sides of these greens. And as you can see on some of these greens, they are pretty much every green, quite frankly, is very small and for the most part fairly flat. So not that I'm into putting statistics very much to begin with because it has the most variance, but in particular, if you are someone for whatever reason that does pay attention to putting statistics, this is a week even more so. I would say do not pay attention to it because these are all professional golfers and these greens for all intents and purposes are fairly easy when it comes to putting. They're one of the easiest to putt on the PGA Tour. The winning score here is usually between 15 and 20 under for a reason. So this is definitely a course that's more dedicated toward the shorter hitters, but more to the accuracy hitters as far as that goes, the proximity of the hole, things of that matter. Get into that in just a second. And just to show you really that the scoring doesn't come from the eagles, I'm just going to show you here. I mean, as far as the this is a course that's not for longer bombers that are not going to put up particularly the eagles. These are the 3 par 5s. Hole number 2 right here, as you're taking a look here, 502 yards. Anybody can eagle this of all driving distances. It does not matter whatsoever. You will see usually about a dozen eagles here each year that'll be posted up here. It's just a very small green and kind of tough to hit it close to and everything like that. So that's the only reason why you don't see a few more here. But still, that's the hole that you're going to see the most eagles on. Hole 5, 550 yards. You only see about 5 eagles here each year. Again, a very small green. There's a tree there that kind of protects the right-hand side of the green. And so 550, usually most players can hit this green in 2 if they so choose to, but in any case, most people don't, and it's just very difficult to make eagle here anyways. And then the last one is 588 yards, hole 15, very long hole, very difficult to get here in 2, let alone to have any realistic shot at an eagle. So in any case, there aren't that many eagles to be had out here, but even for the ones that are, pretty much players of all driving distances can make eagle here. So again, would not pay attention driving distance here whatsoever. All right, so that takes care of that. So as I've already said, this is, of course, that's more dedicated towards shorter hitters. But as you look at the player field here, with the exception of Jason Day at the top, I was actually really surprised Jason Day was in this field when I saw who was here just because he's more of a longer bomber. So put him aside. If you take a look at a lot of the other top golfers here, Snedeker, Kuchar, Zach Johnson, Kisner, all these guys, Bill Haas, they are shorter hitters, more based on their accuracy, their wedge play, and their proximity to the hole. There is a reason why we do not see Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, Adam Scott here. Usually Jordan Spieth's actually here because he is somebody that's a little bit more based on his iron and wedge play and putting per se, but he's recovering a little bit from the Masters, and understandably so. In any case, but anyways, there's a reason why we don't see the long bombers here because they really don't fit this golf course very well. Now, for the cheaper players that are more in the 7,000, 6,000, and 5,000 range, these are golfers that are A, trying to keep their PGA Tour cards, B, just trying to make more cash, quite frankly. And so you will see more longer bombers as far as the cheaper players go. So you'll see more of a variety down below. And this is generally a weaker field overall because we don't see a lot of the big names in this tournament, with the exception of Jason Day and a couple of the other guys I mentioned, like Zach, Snedeker, and Kuchar. So for the most part, we're gonna have to step it up a little bit here with our in-depth research here and pay attention to some of the guys that we may not know much about. And so, in any case, that takes care of that. So statistics I want to get into. Again, I'm going to say this kind of just as a reminder because the talk of statistics keeps wanting to ramp up. I feel like it comes up almost every day on Twitter, comes up every day in other podcasts or just in the forum and other discussions. There's so much talk about statistics. Again, all the statistics you're going to find, PGA stats, they're really cool. There are so many of them out there. But again, every golf course is different. All the conditions change, and you need a fair amount of sample, a pretty good sample size to see what is really relevant because all these golf courses are different. So, and again, the sample sizes we have for 2015-16 data isn't even that much. So, as I'm going to say some statistics to look at, please take it only with a grain of salt. It's only one small piece to the entire puzzle when you're trying to decide how to make your lineups. Okay, but for the statistics, strokes gained tee to green, use that every week. Driving accuracy, like I've always said, again, driving accuracy, definitely not my favorite stat in the world because it's just based on hitting the fairway. Depending on what golf course you play, you could be playing Kapalua or the Hyundai Tournament Champions where the fairways are bajillion yards wide, or you could be playing this golf tournament where they're extremely narrow. And the other thing is also you're going to see a lot of people this week not be hitting driver. You're going to be seeing a lot more 3-woods, utility clubs, hybrids, long irons, all that kind of stuff. So driving accuracy, not my favorite thing. But if you see somebody that has their driving accuracy, around 200th, and they're anything as far as proximity goes, or just their accuracy all around in their entire game, and they're just not hitting the ball well, that's a big no-no for this course. Do not do that. But in any case, driving accuracy you can look at just, a little bit. Proximity to the hole is definitely a good thing. And in particular, I don't like doing this for too many tournaments, but this is one of the tournaments I think you can do it. Proximity to the hole between 125 and 200 yards. I usually do not like looking at a specific range just because I think that data can be flawed sometimes because it can be a small sample. But in any case, there are a lot of golf shots here that really come in that 125 to 200 range. All the par threes are between 150 and 200 yards. A lot of par 4 shots are going to be coming with, pitching wedge all the way up through, your 6-iron, so to speak. It's a short to mid-iron course on these second shots. You get a lot of par 4s in the low 400 range, which really sets up for, upper 100 range, basically, so to speak. So I think you can focus on that range a little bit, and then also scrambling. Like I said, these are very small greens, and so you're going to see a lot of people just off the putting surfaces, so scrambling is absolutely going to be a key factor here when it comes to good scoring. So in any case, that takes care of that. We are moving on to weather before we get into the picks. Weather played a role at Augusta, and I am expecting it will play a role here at the RBC Heritage as well, just not to nearly as big of an extent as it comes to the scoring average is concerned, because Augusta was just bonkers as far as and why was it bonkers? Well, yes, it was really windy, but the course was very dry, and the winds were up because it was so dry, firm, and fast that the wind was blowing the ball even when it came to putting. And that's the one thing I think that wasn't talked about as quite as much, just for the average person that may have noticed. The wind, yes, was a big deal for hitting the ball close to the green, but for putting, the wind was also a big deal as well. So there was just a lot of variance, I think, a lot in the Masters. And I wouldn't pay too much attention to those results as it pertains to this week necessarily. So going off of that, so the weather for this week, though, there is supposed to be wind and rain Thursday and Friday. I'm recording this on a Tuesday night. Again, we should take a look more at this Wednesday night. These picks will just be based on, regardless of what tee time wave they're in, because it's too early to tell right now as far as when the winds are going to be doing what exactly and what the rain's going to exactly be picking up and softening up the course. But again, remember to check back to DailyFantasyWinners in the forum Wednesday night just to check in on weather stuff, and then of course look it up yourself as well and see what you think is best. And in any case, there is also supposed to be wind Saturday and Sunday. Again, most of this golf course is heavily protected by by trees, so I don't think the wind is going to be that big of a deal. It will play a factor, just not a huge role because it is protected a fair amount. But again, the rain could be interesting, softening up the golf course, make it play a little bit softer, which can certainly help. And we'll look into that more in about 24 hours. Okay, so moving on to the picks. Most of you are expecting me probably to pick Jason Day because I'm pretty much on Jason Day almost every golf tournament because I think he's the best player in the world. Not this week. The reason why is because, A, I think he's going to have very high ownership. He is the only player in around $12,500. He is clearly the best golfer in this field. However, as far as being the clear best golfer for this, the clear best golfer for this golf course, I'm not so sure as much. He should be considered, yes, one of the favorites maybe. But I think between high ownership, because there are a lot of golfers in like even the 5,000 range, but definitely in the 6,000 range that are playable, that I think a lot of people are going to have no problem paying up for Jason Day just because he's had such a great year so far this year and obviously had a great end to last year. The thing is, again, like I said, I was shocked Jason Day played in this tournament. He hasn't played here in a few years. He's done okay here, but he hasn't done amazingly well by any means of the imagination. And so and again, this is a week after the Masters that I could see Day mentally not being, I'm not saying he's not going to try, but I'm just saying he will not have the same energy from start to finish that he would in this tournament in comparison to a major championship. And again, this is not a good course fit for him. And again, the high ownership is the main thing here, is the main reason why I'm advocating. If you are only making a few lineups, I would recommend not using him. I'm talking about from GPP purposes, but even in cash purposes, I kind of feel the same way too. Again, I would say I would not use him. If you are making a ton of lineups and you're making hundreds, then okay, yes, I would say you may want to give him a little bit of exposure just because it is Jason Day and you never know when he could go out and dominate. But for the most part, I would say this is a good opportunity to not use him. In fact, this is a tournament more than ever in the entire PGA season. I would say a balanced salary method is a very, very good idea. I think there are a lot of golfers in the 8,000 to 7,000 range who are very capable of winning this golf tournament, let alone just finishing in the top 10. And I think it's also because you see a few golfers here in the 10,000 range that are also good players. I will recommend a couple of them here in just one second, but it's very easy to make a lineup with using one or two of these guys in the 10,000 range, or even just using Jason Day and then loading up on some guys in the mid-tier range. I don't think many people are just going to load up with 6 guys near the $8,333 average range. So I think you could have a great opportunity to make a unique lineup and have 6 guys that still could all very well finish in the top 10. And I think that's a great move to do in GPP. And this because the weakness of this field, their lack thereof, I should say, this field is not very strong. It's a fairly weak field altogether from top to bottom. So in any case, the 2 golfers I will recommend though in the 10,000 range, if you do choose to go this route, are Brandt Snedeker and Matt Kuchar. They are both good fits for this course. Snedeker, the slightly better golfer today. Kuchar, the slightly better fit for this golf course, and also a little bit better history here and experience here as well. But both very good choices for the 10,000 range. The next 5 guys I'm going to list are between 9,100 and 8,200. These are all guys that I think have great chances to win the golf tournament and also as well, finish top 5 or top 10 or whatever. These guys all have good statistics, good course history here, you're just good fits naturally, have great stats here and everything like that. So Bill Haas at 9,100, on top of those things I just mentioned, he's also too cheap. Bill Haas should be in the upper $9,000 range, and I have no idea why he's 9,100. He should be more in the, maybe not quite up to Zach Johnson territory, but he should be at least in the Kevin Kisner range. So you're getting good value here with Bill Haas on top of this being a fantastic fit for him as well. Other golfers that are good here, Kevin Na, a fantastic course fit here. Jason Duffner, again, like I said, I'm shocked he did not play well at Augusta, but again, with all the wind and the variance it created at the different points and times, with all the crazy wind gusts that would just pick up in the middle of people's swings and the ball flights and mid-ball flight and everything like that, I wouldn't pay too much attention to last week's results. Duffner has been playing a much better year this year as opposed to last year, and again, a great course fit for him. Danny Lee at 8,300. I actually backed off Danny Lee before the Masters because he and his caddy parted ways the week before the Masters, and I thought that was a bad sign. Turned out it was a good sign because Danny Lee played some very good golf. Fell off on the stretch there a little bit on the final day, but the final day or two. But Danny Lee played a very good Masters tournament. Danny Lee definitely one more of the rising younger stars on the tour, and I think that, and maybe at the end of the day here, actually is a good thing that he and his caddy end up separating. The reports were just that they simply didn't see eye to eye anymore. Who knows what the exact reasoning was or the details of it was, but hey, good results so far for Danny since the breakup, and it looks like it could be a good thing here moving forward. And I think you're getting good value with Danny at 8,300, and Russell Knox at 8,200. I think is fantastic value, a terrific course fit here, and good history here to boot. So 6 more golfers that I think are very good here from 8,000 to 7,100. Mark Leishman, 8,000. He actually usually would not be a good course fit here. However, looking at his statistics, but on top of that, watching him just from a consistency standpoint, other than the fact that he somehow didn't make the cut at Augusta, he has become a much more consistent golfer, a much better all-around golfer, and he is too cheap at $8,000. He is a much better player than that. On average, he should be more in the $9,000 range for a tournament like this. I think you're getting great value there, even though it isn't the perfect course fit, but is a better fit than maybe what it used to be a couple of years ago for Leishman. Other guys that also are just great course fits, have good statistics here. Webb Simpson, always very good tee to green, 7,900. Ches Rive, a superb fit, outrageously good stats here at 7,600. KJ Choi, solid value, 7,400. Again, a good fit, shorter hitter, good accuracy. Sean O'Hare at 7,200, and William McGirt at 7,100. Great fit and stats as well. I am not going to go into the $6,000 range or the $5,000 range here. I will include those on my list of players on the forum on DailyFantasyWinners.com. I also have a B list, some other guys you might want to throw into some GPP lineups if you're making a ton of lineups. I'll put that on the forum as well. You can find that there. 2 golfers that I am also actually, before we sign off here, I'm going to recommend fading. Again, like I said, I recommended fading Ryan Moore and Zach Johnson. I was kind of a little bit in the middle on as far as the Masters go because of the high GPP ownership. I guess I shouldn't take too much credit for the Zach thing because I said you could kind of go middle of the road there. But definitely I said Ryan Moore was a perfect fade candidate. This is something I start like to doing a lot more now because I'm realizing a lot of people are still jumping on some really high GPP ownerships with these lower price golfers, which is, again, my opinion, not a very good thing to do because their ultimate chances on winning the golf tournament simply just aren't that great. So 2 golfers I'm going to recommend fading here. This may come as a little bit of a surprise to you, but Luke Donald at 8,300. Luke has the most outrageous course history here if you look at it. Has a bajillion top 5s here. But here's the thing. Luke Donald, quite frankly, has not been playing very well this year at all. If you take a look here at Luke, he finished tied for 26th at Puerto Rico, but the Puerto Rico Open didn't even have the top 64 players in the world because they were at the WGC match play. Missed the cut at the Arnold Palmer. 22nd at Valspar, not that bad, but again, Valspar is not the greatest field in the world. Barely made the cut at the Honda, the Northern Trust. T26 at Pebble is all right. It's kind of a little bit more of a, it's a pro-am. They play 3 different golf courses. It helps out a little bit. Not too bad from Luke. Missed the cut at the Career Builder Challenge, or usually a very easy field. And then not that great in the fall season, and then, T28 Sony Open, so nothing that great. And the other reason why I really don't like Luke for this tournament is that his accuracy, not just with his driver, but it seems like any golf club right now, it seems like when it comes to the longer clubs, the fairway woods, the utility clubs, have not been very good. So I don't think Luke Donald's accuracy has been very good, which really hurts for this tournament. And when you miss the fairway at the RBC Heritage, you are going to be hitting punch shot after punch shot after punch shot, bailing out and scrambling your butt off. And again, the winner of this golf tournament should be around 15 under at least, maybe more. And you're going to have to give yourself enough birdie opportunities on these greens. And I just don't think Donald's accuracy and his consistency right now is good enough to be in contention to have a great result at the end of the day. And because he's had such amazing course history here, I think he'll have really high GPP ownership. He would be one person I would fade here this week. And the other person I would recommend fading, I really wish I wasn't saying this because even though he's only played, he played the Masters last week as an amateur, Bryson DeChambeau, he is somebody I'm quickly becoming a huge fan of just from reading about him, seeing him in the media, watching him play. I love his approach to the game. The thing here with Bryson is he puts so much effort into the Masters. This is his first week as a professional, but the most importantly, he is the hot topic. He is the buzz of this golf tournament right now, and a lot of people are into him. And I think he's just going to have really high ownership, and he's bumped all the way up to 8,000 from being in the mid 6,000 range. I know that was the Masters. This is the RBC Heritage, but still, that is a huge bump. I guarantee I'll be picking Bryson down the line in the future, but for this week, I think it's a fade just because the buzz is far exceeding the realistic expectations for Bryson this week at $8,000. So those are my two fade recommendations for this week. That's it. Again, like I said, I will have all this stuff up on DailyFantasyWinners.com in the forum, include some additional picks for you there as well. If you like this video or any of the other stuff we have done here with Tee to Green, please do like and subscribe our Twitch and YouTube channels. We always do appreciate that. You can always follow me at Nick Juskewycz, and then of course you can follow Daily Fantasy Winners at DFantasyWinners. Thanks everyone. Good luck with your lineups.